It's about changing up your game plan, taking the blinders off. And I think everyone in this room has that trait because you're looking to grow your business, to take your business globally, to reach horizons that you never thought you would be able to reach to. So I think that's critical. And thirdly, it's about risk. It's about taking risk, but managing that risk. And many times you got to micromanage that risk and you have to convert it into success. And success is a funny word. And I often wonder, why are some people successful and many not? And for me, it comes down to one word, and that word is fear. I bet you didn't know this, but when we're born into the world, we're only born with two natural fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. And every other fear we have is learned. And so many people are afraid to fail, or they're afraid they're going to make a mistake, or they're afraid what their friends or family are going to say, that they don't even try. And in my opinion, that's the biggest failure of them all, not even trying. I know all about fear. When I first got hired on by Trump, I was scared. I thought, how am I going to be able to work with Donald Trump? I'm just a small entrepreneur from Chicago. And then Donald called me up. He called me on my cell phone for the first time after I won. It was about 2 weeks after I won. And this is the call that I claim really set the tone for our relationship. He called me up. He said, Bill, Donald here. He said, I need you to do me a favor. I said, whatever you need, Mr. Trump. He said, well, I'd like you to fly with me tomorrow down to Quito, Ecuador, because I want you to be a judge at my Miss Universe contest. I said, Donald, I'm a company man. I will do whatever I need to do to help this company. But I have to give him credit where credit is due because he held up his end of the bargain, and he opened up his world to me, took me under his wing, and showed me what business is like at that level. And the one thing I realized is that business at that level isn't much different than business at our level. The numbers are a heck of a lot bigger, but the fundamentals of business, they never change. And I think the entrepreneurs who can master the fundamentals of business and use those as their foundation can build upon that foundation anything they want. And one of the lessons I learned, I got to work on a project in White Plains, New York, when I first started. And I worked with a guy, he kind of took me under his wing. He was the chairman of a major construction company. And when I first met this guy, I was scared. He was this burly guy from Brooklyn, and he had this thick Brooklyn accent. This is when the Sopranos were real popular, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get whacked here. But he taught me a very valuable lesson. And I was working on this project, and I was clearly in over my head. Didn't know what I was really doing. And I was leaving the office one day, and he turned to me, and he said, hey, kid, be the conductor. And I looked at him, I said, okay, will do, Greg, thanks. And I left there, and I had no idea what he was meant by that. And I was thinking, the conductor of a train? What was he talking about? And then I got home, and it hit me. He was referring to the conductor of an orchestra. You see, the conductor of an orchestra is like a successful entrepreneur. The conductor of the orchestra has all these expert musicians in his or her pit, and they play their instruments to perfection. The conductor himself is not an expert at playing each and every one of those instruments, but he gets them all to play in harmony with one another. And where entrepreneurs oftentimes fall short is they let their ego get in the way. They think they know everything there is to know about everything, and they refuse to conduct the orchestra, and they stunt their growth significantly when they do that. One of the things I've done over the last 6 years is I've done a lot of people watching. Any people watchers in the room? Got it right? You can learn so much good and bad, and I've gotten to spend a lot of time with Donald Trump and other great entrepreneurs that our country has to offer. And I've noticed that these guys all possess very similar traits. Their personalities are different, but a couple of these traits really jump off the page. One, these guys are all good decision makers. And as elementary as that may sound, for many entrepreneurs, they let opportunities pass them by because they can't make a decision in a timely manner. You know the old saying, analysis paralysis. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. Early on, Trump pulled me aside. He said, I'll support you right or wrong, whatever decision you make. But the day you don't make a decision is the day I'm going to fire you. Secondly, they're creative. They find creative solutions to their problems. Had I not been creative with those Coke bottle glasses and sending out those packages, I very well may have run out of money with that cigar company. And thirdly, they never quit and they never make excuses. And I see so many entrepreneurs today giving up. They're throwing their hands in the air and they're saying, it's the economy. They're blaming everything on the economy or the guy or the girl next to them, and they're not taking ownership. And the sooner they realize that it's up to them to take control of their own destiny, the sooner they find success. Now, on the flip side, as Simon mentioned, I was working on a show for the A&E network called We Mean Business, and and I got to spend time with some of the worst entrepreneurs our country has to offer. And I've noticed that they too have very differing personalities, but they all have very similar traits. And these are probably traits that we want to avoid. One in particular is they're all reactive rather than proactive. So many entrepreneurs, you see, they wait for problems to arise and they put those fires out and they never get ahead of the game. And they often wonder, well, why am I not successful? They're not anticipating the problems of their customers before their customers even realize they have problems. You see, when you anticipate and you bring your customers solutions before they even know they have problems, you create an incredible interdependency. So they're reactive rather than proactive. They surround themselves with negative people, right? An interesting study I just read said the majority of the people we come into contact with on a daily basis are negative. And it went on to say you're never going to be able to eliminate those people from your lives, but when you're aware of who they are and what their intentions are, you negate their power. And there's a lot of people out there, especially when you're an entrepreneur, who want to pull you down in order to build themselves up. They're jealous, they're envious, they wish they could do what you're doing. You see, I ran into the owners of that metals company, oh God, about a year and a half ago, and they came running up to me. We knew you were going to be successful. I said, no, you didn't. And lastly, it's about potential. You see, I truly believe when we're born into this world, God gives us a certain amount of currency in the form of potential, and it's up to us to make it grow. It's up to us to make it multiply, yet so many of us don't do that. And I want to leave you with this story. I was reading a book the other day. It was from an evangelist, and it's very powerful, especially for the entrepreneur. And I want to share this with you. I thought you guys would appreciate it. And this is what he writes. He said, I heard somebody say the wealthiest place on earth is not Fort Knox or the oil fields in the Middle East, nor is it the gold and diamond mines in South Africa. Ironically, the wealthiest places on earth are the cemeteries, because lying in those graves are all kinds of dreams and desires that will never be fulfilled. Buried beneath the ground are books that will never be written, businesses that will never be started, and relationships that will never be formed. Sadly, the incredible power of potential is lying in those graves. So it's up to us not to bury that potential. It's up to us to take the rearview mirror off the car, because so many entrepreneurs are focusing on what's behind them rather than looking at what's ahead of them. They never get ahead of the game. So with agility, that never quit attitude, and a little bit of creativity, success is inevitable. And I want to thank you folks for coming. I want to thank British Airways for having everyone. How about a round of applause for British Airways? And I really I look forward to meeting each and every one of you after lunch. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.